All right, guys, here is my portable in the OR notes, things about post-op knees, post-op pelvis, spine, shoot through spines in the OR. That's mainly our portable work in the OR. So I'm going to start with the total knee replacements. Our protocol for total knee would be an AP and a cross-table lateral knee, and we do those post-op, so after the surgery is done. In the OR, we have the Shimadzu portable, so you're going to use the 1417. You don't need a grid, but you're going to put your cassette in the plastic bag. Park the portable down to the foot end of the bed. If they haven't put the knee in a true AP position, you're going to have to rotate that knee. Think of it exactly as if you're doing a AP and cross table knee in the OR on a patient in the stretcher, right? Same concept. You won't have a sponge to prop the knee up, but usually there's a roll underneath the knee kind of supporting it anyways, down in the OR. You're going to use a non-grid technique. So I have 2.5 at 60. In the digital portable, you might be a 2 at 55, maybe, okay? So just watch for that. So this is kind of what it will look like. This is the knee replacement within here, all right? Open joint space, nice and even side to side, true AP, and cross table lateral, right? So you want your superimposed femoral condyles like this, right? And same concept for rotation. We're looking for the relationship of the fibular head to the tibia. And this was just sort of to give you an idea of where the replacement lies, okay? And then the second possibility you could have is a total hip replacement. So we do a pelvis. We don't do just a hip x-ray. We do a pelvis. They like to look at both sides. And this could be either intraoperative, meaning during the case, or postoperative, meaning after the case, depending on the doctor that you have. I'm going to start with the intraoperative pelvis, which is during the surgery. So depending on which surgeon you use or which surgeon calls you in, some of them have the ultraviolet lights on. So if they have that on, you have to use the hood, the mask, eye protection, and you have to make sure your jacket is covering your wrists. You can't have any skin exposed. So you need to put all that gear on, so just be aware of that. During the intraoperative pelvis views, the scrub tech will help put the drape over your cassette, and then the surgeon's going to assist you with where they want the cassette centered. So the patient's actually going to be lateral position, similar to this image here, and they're going to be working on the side that's up. So really, it'll be kind of a shoot through AP or PA, depending on which side they have you on, okay? The sterile drape will be over the cassette, and you're going to bring it right up alongside the patient, or the surgeon's going to put it in place. You're going to bring your portable, perpendicular to the stretcher. So down by the feet here, you want to park over here and swing it around to shoot. You are going to be lower than the crest. So unlike the pelvis x-rays that we do routinely where you need to have the crest on, we don't need the iliac crest on these intra-op or post-op pelvis because they want the whole hardware and the rod going down the femur, which is usually lower than our normal pelvis, okay? So intraoperative, the surgeon will assist you with positioning, and then post-operative, so after the surgery is done, you're going to have your 1417 cassette with a grid. Obviously, we do pelvises with a grid, right? The patient will be slid over onto their bed in the OR room. You would want your cassette on the bed already. I put it right underneath that green pad that's usually on their bed, so I slide it right underneath crosswise, just like a pelvis. But make sure you're a little bit lower. So you're going to be a little bit below crest, like 1.5 inches, 2 inches below crest. They're going to place that patient into that 15 to 20 degree internal rotation and kind of strap them into this blue triangle sponge to keep their legs in place. I want you guys to use a little bit lower of a technique. So I know in your mind you're going in to do a pelvis, but this is a low pelvis. So you're going to need lower technique. So think more femur technique. People tend to overshoot these, and especially with the hardware in place, it tends to read a little bit higher. So you're going maybe a 16, and even with your digital cassette that you guys are using, you might be in a 12.5, even for a small patient. So a little bit less than you think you would normally need, okay? Yep, so watching this postoperative pelvis, the stretchers or the beds that they put them on may have this lifting method for the patient on here, this metal triangle. So watch for that with your tube. You may, if you're gonna hit it, ask them to move it around, okay? One thing I really want you to watch out for is looking at the angle of your grid cassette. So remember those grid lines that are coming through, right? Whether you're crosswise or lengthwise grid lines. The kind of upper end of this cassette, which is underneath the patient's buttocks, is going to be tilted down a little bit because that usually weighs more than the legs, okay? So look at the angle of your grid cassette, and you want to match that angle with your tube so you don't catch any grid lines. You also want to make sure you're centered to your grid. You want both sides on and make sure you have a marker on there. You're going to call x-ray before making the exposure because they're not going to have lead aprons on. Like your other fluoro cases with your C-arm cases, you want to make sure you're always yelling x-ray before you make any exposure so they can move 6 feet away, all right? Spines. We're either going to do a lumbar or cervical cross-table spine in the OR. It's usually just cross-table laterals most often, but the lumbar lateral, 14-17 cassette with a grid. The patient will most likely be prone 99% of the time. We used to have a surgeon call us in when the patient was unsterile and then call us back in later on when he was sterile, but that surgeon is gone now. So you will most likely be doing just one in the sterile situation. There's a cassette holder in the room. You're going to wait till that cassette is draped with a sterile drape before putting it flush against the OR table because the OR table is now sterile, okay? The bottom of your cassette needs to include the sacrum, so the patient's buttocks. And looking at the sort of shape of the patient, being aware of where it is. And your light field needs to include the surgeon's marker. So they're going to place a metal marker sticking out of their back. You want to make sure that's within kind of a shadow of light on your imaging plate. Watch the angle of your collimator. Make sure you're shooting straight. Don't have an angle on it. Again, for those grid lines, watch for that. Ask the anesthesiologist to hold the respiration. It prevents motion with your patient while they're breathing, okay? Announce x-ray prior to making the exposure, allowing the OR staff to move 6 feet away. You'll make your exposure. The surgeon's going to come over and try and lean over your portable machine to look at your image in their sterile gown. Don't go close to them. Sometimes we have to turn a few of the lights off so they can see the screen better. Make sure their level marker is visible, so that metal piece that they have going in. Most often for the DR, we're around 50 mass at 90. Your larger patient might be 63 mass at 100. For CR, we used to use their patient's weight, so we were going, 200 or 250 at 85, 90. So it's really significant drop for you guys using the DR. And then we rarely do an AP or PA anymore. We used to have a surgeon that required those, but there's a metal tray in the OR area. We called it a pizza tray, and it can slide in the table. Or if the patient is prone on this rounded piece called a rainbow, you can slide the cassette right underneath, actually. So just trying not to touch the sterile area is something that's really important with this one because you have to get close. The portable has to go over the patient without contaminating the sterile field, and that's really tricky. Whatever you used for your lateral technique, use 1/3 of that, and that should be your AP or PA technique. So they may do one with the metal marker. They may do one at the end looking at their fusion, whatever they need. But you always need the sacrum on when you're doing a lumbar spine because that's how they count and they find their level. So they want to know 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Something I want you to watch out for, though, is looking at your OR schedule and understanding what level is the surgeon at. So if they're at level, 1 or 2 or 2 or 3, you don't want to center to their metal marker because then you're not going to have the sacrum on. So I always look at where they're looking. I don't center there. I center the same way no matter what level they're at for a lumbar. I look at sort of the shape of the buttocks here, and I put the end of my cassette there. And I just look at height-wise to make sure I have a shadow around their marker that's sticking out of the body. And ideally, you're going to be straight down the middle if you have to do an AP or PA, but I highly doubt you guys will have to do those. Cervical spine cross table, really similar to that of lumbar spine. We have a 14-17 crosswise cassette in a grid. We don't have a smaller one for our portable. We used to use a 10x12. Again, bring it flush against the table. Center to, you can center to the lead marker. You want skull to shoulders. Try and maintain at least a 40 to 60 inch distance. If the shoulders aren't taped down, it'll be difficult to see their C6, C7 level if that's where they're going. So hopefully the surgeons have really pulled those shoulders down. You might be a 16 at an 80 or a 20 at 80 for that one as well. Instrument count. Usually for instrument counts, we do an abdomen most often. If they have one extra, or if they are not enough instruments, as if the count is off, they are legally required to do an instrument count. So the patient can be sterile and open, or they can be non-sterile and closed. If there's a tray underneath the table and the patient is slim, you can use the tray. If they're wider than the table or really to the edge, you need to go directly under the patient. We are required to get skin to skin, meaning side to side. So you need to include all incision sites and side to side because those sponges can get tucked in the soft tissue. And a wet read needs to be called to a radiologist. The radiologist has to call the specific room before the patient can go to PACU. You're obviously going to use an abdomen technique if that's what you're doing. I have done a few instrument counts for chest, and there's a possibility you could do it extremity as well. But I always ask them, what did you lose? So the radiologists have some sort of idea what they're looking for. If it's a big, clamp, is it a sponge with a little lead marker in it, or a little marker in it that you can see on x-ray? Is it something small? Is it a really small needle? Just to give them some sort of idea. And those are just a few of the portable x-rays you may do in the